welcome to my second Fanside chat. Today I'm talking about these little fluff buckets. Yuri on ice. So, before I get started, I am not going to explain what this is about, and there's going to be spoilers everywhere. So if you don't know what this anime is about, and you don't want to be spoiled, now's a good time to leave. Otherwise, I'm going to assume you see it or you just don't care about being spoiled and are probably never going to watch it. So here goes. First of all, I'm going to say this beautiful, beautiful little piece right here is by an artist named Gyrus. I have some other of their art. If I do this correctly, they will appear here. If not, I'm just sitting here awkwardly for a moment. But let's get into it. I watched this anime when it first came out, I think around 2015, 2016, maybe it was 2016. The real date's going to appear around my face somewhere, again, if I can do this right. And I watched it, and I remember liking it. I remember commenting to some friends, like, I'm watching this anime about figure skating. Which, granted, that is pretty much the only Olympic sport I like. I do really love figure skating, which is part of the reason why I think I first watched this. And I kind of do remember in the anime community that I kind of lurked around, a lot of people talking about this, which is why I decided to start watching it. And I really enjoyed it, and it made me happy. So I added it onto my Fluffy Feels rotation. So those are all the TV shows or movies or books or what have you that just make me happy. So when I'm feeling down, I'll pull one of those out and watch them. And then the pandemic, and so I gathered all my Fluffy Feel things around me and started a rotation watch, and Yuri on Ice wound up on that, and I watched it knowing I already knew the story and everything. This was just supposed to be a background watch and enjoying it again, but oh, did it hit me this time around, and I am so disappointed in myself in some ways that I never engaged with it the way I did this time. But I think up until this point I had been ignoring and not really acknowledging my anxiety and panic disorders. But that's too deep to get into, but needless to say, watching it that time around, Yuri and his anxiety just hit me in a way it never had before. And it meant so much, and I know it's weird to say, but this anime got me through a lot of those first few months because of the way Yuri's anxiety helped kind of channel my own. In the same way where, kind of like Agretsuko, if I get really upset and angry and mad, I'll try to listen to heavy metal because it kind of helps channel that rage out. I felt like Yuri helped channel some of that anxiety I was going through, because there was just so much about it and the way he interacts with it that just kind of made me go, you know what? You want to understand what goes on in his brain? Watch this anime. I'm not saying it's 100%, but it's real close. It's real close. I think there's a lot about it that I can identify with, not only just in the way it's portrayed, which I feel is very realistic to me, because up until this point I had seen people with anxiety or these kinds of reactions to things, and they were always way over the top, and Yuri's just felt so honest. And as someone who grew up being artistic, because I was a theater major and was into theater and the arts for years and years, I understood the way he reacted to certain things in his artistry, and how that anxiety would sometimes hold him back 1,000%, and how at times it would push him forward. And oh, can we just talk about the moment where they're in the parking lot and Victor says that he was going to stop being Yuri's coach if Yuri doesn't do well. And what he's just trying to do is shock Yuri out of this anxiety spiral, this panic attack he's going through. And of course, Yuri's reaction is to get angry, and that anger turns to crying, which Can't even tell you how many times I've done that. And of course Victor's like, oh, I didn't mean it, and Yuri's like, no, I know. And just when he's like, look, and I'm paraphrasing, I need you to just have more faith in me than I do, or something along those lines. Just, did that hit me in the solar plexus this time around, because I was like, oh, holy hell, that is it. That is it. Because sometimes when we are spiraling like that, and we are having those moments, and we are beating ourselves up, and we just need that person who has more faith in us than we do. And I know that's a lot to put on somebody else, but it means so much to have those people in your life, and I am so blessed to have people like that in my life. Yeah, so it got me through quite a bit during those first few months. Outside of that, I just appreciate a lot of what they do and how they treat things in this, because nothing is ever... I'm trying to think of how to say this. They never make anything too big of a deal, right? Like, everyone around Yuri, his friends and his family, they know this about him, they accept this about him, and he is never by himself. And even though he's talked about some of the times where he's felt kind of alone, he does recognize that he is not, which is another very big truth for me. There are times where I just feel like no one understands me and no one gets me, but then I know that they do, and they love me and they care for me, and that means the world. And his family and his friends are a lot like that, and I do appreciate them throwing in this other character who's not used to it and showing, how that dynamic starts to work. And I appreciate the little bits that we get with the other characters who show up, and that we kind of get a little bit of insight into their mindsets and the way that they interact with the sport and with their dealings in the sport. And and even the relationship that starts to form between Victor and Yuri, which I full on think is a romantic relationship. I know that people can make the argument that's just a friendship, but I think there's way too much that happens that I'm like, no. For me, it is a relationship of a romantic nature, and I like the fact, again, that it's never treated as this thing. Like, people may tease them about it or say things, but everyone just kind of accepts it. They just accept that there's these two people. Who cares about their gender? Who cares about where they are in their lives? It's just these two people who are starting to form this relationship and this attachment to one another, and everyone is just like, we accept it. And I think that's beautiful. I know some people have some criticisms that maybe they didn't do enough for the LGBTQ plus community in the way that they portrayed things, but for me, I think they did a really good job in the way it was handled. And come on, I just love these two little fluff buckets together. They're just so sweet. And there's a lot of scenes in the anime we could talk about where it proves my theory that this is a budding romantic relationship, and how I think 99% of the fandom sees it. But let's just talk about episode 9. Let's talk about the end of episode 9. Everyone talks about episode 10. I get episode 10. We had the rings. We have kind of the vows that weren't really, but sort of. We get, the whole end scene in the credits where we learn why Victor decides to become Yuri's coach. But let's talk about episode 9, shall we? Because I think this is the moment that solidifies the relationship between these two. And that is the moment where Yuri is coming off the plane and Victor is waiting for him in the airport. And they see each other. And Yuri had no idea that Victor was going to meet him there. And just the look on both of their faces when they see one another. And they're on the other sides of the partitions. And they take off running to the exit doors where Yuri is going to come out. And then Yuri gets to those doors and he does that little dance while waiting for them to open, and then he just launches himself into Victor's arms. And that whole scene, to me, that speaks so much about the relationship between these two and how much at this point they have come to care and rely and love each other. It's just such a beautiful moment. It makes me so happy and so giddy, even to this day, and more so than a lot of other scenes. It's just one of those scenes that I will think about, and I just have to smile and giggle. It just makes me so happy. Oh, I love this too. The other thing I find really interesting about this anime, just like going way off here, is the fact that the title could mean more than just it says, because there are two Yuris in this. There is Yuri Katsuki, who I've been talking about this whole time, but there's also Yuri Plisetsky, this kid right here. And I think you could make a strong argument that Yuri on Ice is his story as well, because yes, even though we focus more on Yuri Katsuki, and Yuri Katsuki names one of his routines Yuri on Ice, we get a lot about Yuri Plisetsky in this too. A lot about his family and his journey and how he winds up where he is right now in this story. So I think if you're a huge Yuri Plisetsky fan, you can make a very good argument that this is his movie or his series more than Yuri Katsuki's. Personally, I'm a Yuri Katsuki person, but I do find that really fascinating, the way that the creators and studio and everyone did that. So kudos to them on that one. And then let's talk about my second favorite character. Well, I guess maybe my third favorite character, but I kind of count Yuri and Victor as one. So my second favorite character, and that is Peachy Chulinol. I love this kid. I love this kid so much. He is the friend we all need in our life. Everything I needed to know about Peachy, I knew the moment he was on the screen. And he's watching the video of Yuri doing Victor's routine, and his only reaction is to look at that and go, ah, Yuri. And that's all we get. We just get this character looking at this and going, ah, Yuri, and just walking on. And I was like, that's all I need to know, and I love this kid. I loved him in that moment. I was like, this kid. And the more they talk about, you know, how he and Yuri had their friendship, and, you know, how Peachy wants to do his ice skating show at some point, and Yuri is a part of it. Like, I adore that kid. I adore him so much. Yeah. Okay, I think I've probably gushed about this enough at this point. I will say that, like every fan, I am eagerly awaiting Ice Adolescence, which has been a thing we've all been talking about and promised for 5-6 years at this point, and are still waiting for. And I can't say patiently waiting for anymore. I don't think there's any patience in this. But my hope is that it's taking them this long because they want to do it justice, and I get that, but also because what we're going to find out is they do the movie and then they are like, oh, by the way, we're doing a second series. And it's a continuation from where the first one left off. I hope I'm not proven wrong by that, and that the movie comes out and that's all there is. But oh, do I want it so bad. Yes, I can rewatch this over and over again, but I can't. Okay. There's only so much fan fiction I can read about these people. I need new content. Alright, now I'm gonna stop. If you made it this far, thank you, and I'm sorry. If you're a fan of Yuri on Ice, please feel free to leave your comments below, or even if you're not a fan, why you do or do not like it. Did you rewatch it during the pandemic? How did it hit you? Was it the same for you? Did it become like suddenly this new obsession that you didn't realize was going to become an obsession because you totally saw it in a new light? Or have you just been obsessed with it ever since it first came out and you want to talk about that too? I welcome it all. Just be nice to each other. That's all I ask for. Anyway, Until next time.